How do you defend a lifetime of love when a single lie can unravel it? I'm Bethany Morrison, a cardiac nurse who spent 7 years stitching my family together, thread by fragile thread, only to stand in a courtroom watching it fray. My ex-husband Garrett sits across from me, his charcoal suit gleaming like a blade, his smirk a silent promise that he's already won. Our children, Rosalie and Colton, aren't even supposed to be here. But I can feel their absence like a heartbeat skipping in my chest. The air smells of polished wood and stale coffee, and the fluorescent lights buzz faintly, amplifying the pounding in my ears. Garrett's lawyer, Mr. Thornley, points at me, his voice slicing through the room. "Your Honor, this woman can't even afford proper meals," he declares, waving a folder I know is stuffed with doctored photos and manipulated bank statements. These innocent children go to bed hungry because of her neglect. Each word lands like a punch, and I grip the table, my knuckles whitening. My public defender, Miss Delane, shuffles papers, her eyes darting nervously, unprepared for Thornley's polished assault. The judge, Wendell, leans forward, his eyebrows knitting in concern, and I see my entire world teetering in that single expression. The courtroom feels like a pressure cooker, every whisper and rustle amplified. Thornley's voice booms again, detailing evidence of empty refrigerators, bounced checks, and my kids in tattered clothes. "These children deserve better than a mother who prioritizes her own needs," he says, and I want to scream that every penny I earn goes to Rosalie and Colton. But my throat feels like it's filled with cement. I glance at Garrett, his familiar smirk twisting the knife of 7 years of marriage where he turned my words against me. He's betting on my silence, on my exhaustion from working double shifts at Mercy General Hospital. I'm a nurse, trained to stay calm under pressure, but this isn't a patient's heart I'm fighting for. It's my own, and my children's. "Mrs. Morrison, these are serious allegations," Judge Wendell says, his voice measured but heavy. "Do you have anything to say?" My hands shake, and I open my mouth, but nothing comes out. Defending myself against Garrett always made things worse. He had a gift for weaponizing my truths. I think of Rosalie's purple dress from her school concert, the one she said made her brave, and Colton's dinosaur tie he wears to feel like a TV lawyer. They're not here, but I fight for them. Thornley presses on, holding up a photo of my supposedly empty fridge. "This was taken Monday," he says, smirking. My stomach twists. Garrett was at our apartment that morning, using a key he shouldn't have had. I explain it was before my grocery delivery, but Thornley counters, "No proof of that, Your Honor." He pulls out bank records, highlighting overdraft fees from when Garrett skipped child support for 2 months, leaving my bills to drain me dry. Miss Delane fumbles, unprepared, and I feel the walls closing in. Garrett interrupts. She's always making excuses, and I flinch, remembering how he'd dismiss my every effort during our marriage. The judge's frown deepens, and I'm drowning in the realization that my truth might not be enough. Then, a small voice cuts through the tension like a beacon. "Your Honor, may I say something?" I turn, heart stopping, to see Rosalie standing in the gallery, clutching a glitter-decorated shoebox, Colton beside her in his dinosaur tie. They weren't supposed to be here. Mrs. Chen was watching them. Yet there they stand, my 9-year-old daughter looking braver than I feel, holding evidence I didn't know existed. The bailiff moves toward her, but Judge Wendell raises a hand. "What's in the box, Rosalie?" he asks, and I hold my breath, sensing the tide might turn, but not daring to hope yet. Rosalie doesn't sit down as the bailiff instructs. Instead, she holds up her shoebox, the one she decorated for her 4th-grade memory project, glitter catching the courtroom light like defiant stars. "Your Honor, my name is Rosalie Morrison," she says, her voice steady despite her small frame. "That's my mom over there, and I have something really important you need to see." The room falls silent, every eye on her, including Garrett's, whose face drains of color. Judge Wendell stops the bailiff with a raised hand. "What's in the box, Rosalie?" he asks gently, leaning forward. She takes a deep breath, her purple dress swaying as she steps closer. "Receipts, Your Honor, the ones Daddy told me to hide from Mommy's lawyer. He said if I kept them secret and told everyone Mommy doesn't feed us, he'd buy me a new iPad and take us to Disney World." My heartbeat thunders in my ears, the air thick with shock. Garrett shoots up. "That's ridiculous. She's making things up. Kids have wild imaginations. Bethany obviously coached her. But the judge cuts him off sharply. "Mr. Morrison, you'll remain silent unless addressed." Rosalie continues, walking forward with deliberate steps, my brave girl who still checks for monsters under her bed, now facing a room full of adults deciding her fate. She opens the box, pulling out a stack of photos, blurry but unmistakable. Garrett hauling garbage bags from our apartment to the dumpster, discarding unopened food packages, chicken, vegetables, cereal, milk. "Daddy came to our house when Mommy was at work," she explains, her voice clear. "He took food from our freezer and pantry and threw it away. I followed him and took pictures with the phone Grandma Vera gave me before she died." I stare, piecing it together, the empty fridge photos, the staged neglect. How had I missed this? Exhaustion from shifts, maybe, or the fog of constant worry. Judge Wendell asks softly, "Why didn't you tell anyone before?" Rosalie's eyes well up. "Because Daddy said if I told, the judge would be angry and send me and Colton to different foster homes. We'd never see Mommy or each other again. But my teacher, Mrs. Brennan, said in social studies that being scared is okay, but letting lies hurt people you love is never okay." Colton stands then, his dinosaur tie crooked, hands folded. "I helped collect the receipts," he adds. "We were being detectives for truth." The courtroom holds its breath as Rosalie pulls more from the box, receipts showing my grocery spends, each one a testament to my sacrifices. Thornley tries to recover, his voice strained. "Your Honor, this is highly irregular. Children can't testify without proper procedure." But the judge waves him off, examining the photos. Garrett's smirk is gone, replaced by panic, his suit now seeming like ill-fitting armor. I feel a spark of hope, fragile but real, as Miss Delane finally speaks up. "Your Honor, we'd like to submit this as evidence." Rosalie nods, handing over a notebook with unicorn stickers. "I wrote down everything Daddy did, like putting water in the milk to make it look spoiled, or taking batteries from the smoke detector." Colton chimes in. "He made us practice crying for the social worker." The revelations cascade, each one chipping away at Garrett's facade. I think back to the nights I'd come home bone-tired, fridge oddly sparse, kids quiet in a way that unsettled me. They'd been carrying this burden, protecting me in their childlike way. Judge Wendell turns to Garrett. "Do you deny this?" Thornley interjects about verifying authenticity, but the damage is done. Rosalie pulls out a digital recorder next, Grandma Vera's gift, and presses play. Garrett's voice fills the room. "Listen, Princess, tell the judge you're hungry at Mommy's, even if it's not true. It's like playing pretend." Her small recorded voice protests, "But lying is wrong, Daddy." He persists with bribes, a microscope Disney, and threats of moving away. The recording continues, weaving threats with promises, manipulation cloaked as care. Sienna shifts in the gallery, her hand on her belly, looking uncomfortable. Garrett's face is ashen, his lawyer whispering frantically. Judge Wendell's expression hardens to fury. "Mr. Morrison, this is egregious." He grants me full custody on the spot, orders supervised visitation for Garrett, and refers him for criminal charges: fraud, tampering, interference. Garrett must pay costs, my fees, back support. The gavel falls, echoing like freedom. As we leave, Rosalie slips her hand in mine. "We did it, Mom." Tears blur my vision, their courage has saved us. But I ache that they had to be so strong. In the hallway, Mrs. Chen waits, nodding approval. "Truth needed its day," she says. That night, tucking them in, Rosalie asks if I'm mad about the secrets. "Never," I whisper. "You were brave when I couldn't be." Colton adds, "We won't forget the truth." Their words linger, a balm on wounds I didn't fully acknowledge. But this victory unearths memories I'd buried. 6 months ago, life was a different rhythm. Waking to Rosalie's bedhead demands for pancakes on cereal days, Colton's dinosaurs and breakfast formation. Our apartment, with rattling windows and clanging radiators, was our sanctuary. Science projects everywhere, Lego cities sprawling. "Mom, your heart works overtime helping others," Rosalie once said, homework spread out. The divorce finalized March 15th, a black-circled date of survival. Garrett left for Sienna, his fresh start, her Instagram full of destiny quotes. Relief washed over me. The marriage had been a minefield. Dinner late meant I was disorganized, extra shifts neglectful. Then his parents died in that crash, the will's clause emerging, estate to him only with custody. Suddenly he was father of the year, gifts and camps masking his greed. "Why does Daddy take pictures of our stuff?" Colton asked once. Playing a game, he'd said, but it was his plot building. I drowned in preparation, family distant, lawyer overworked. The hearing loomed, my suit mended, nerves frayed. Thornley's opening salvo replayed in my mind. But now, with the kids' intervention, the lies crumbled. 6 months ago, my life was completely different. I was Bethany Morrison, working double shifts as a cardiac nurse at Mercy General Hospital while raising 2 beautiful children. Every morning started the same way. Rosalie would shuffle into the kitchen with her hair sticking up in 12 different directions, asking if she could have pancakes for breakfast, even though she knew it was a Wednesday, and Wednesdays meant cereal and toast. Colton would already be at the table, carefully arranging his dinosaur figures in what he called breakfast formation, making sure each one had a good view of his cereal bowl. Our apartment wasn't much to look at from the outside. Second floor of a building that had seen better days, with windows that rattled when the wind picked up and radiators that clanged like ghost drummers in the winter. But inside those walls, we'd built something special. Rosalie's science projects covered every available surface in the living room. Her latest creation, a volcano made from papier-mâché and too much enthusiasm, sat proudly on the coffee table, even though it had already erupted 3 times and left baking soda stains on the carpet. Colton's Lego cities sprawled across his bedroom floor in elaborate configurations that he'd mapped out on graph paper, complete with street names and building specifications. Lam, did you know that the human heart beats about 100,000 times per day? Rosalie had announced one evening while I was helping her with homework. That means your heart at work is super busy helping other hearts keep working. That's pretty amazing, sweet pea, I'd replied, though my own heart felt like it had been working overtime just trying to keep our little family afloat. The divorce from Garrett had been finalized exactly 3 months earlier, on March 15th, a date I'd circled on the calendar with black marker. Not in celebration, but as a reminder that I'd survived. He'd left us for Sienna, his 24-year-old personal trainer, who posted motivational quotes on Instagram about living your truth and following your destiny. Apparently, Garrett's destiny involved abandoning his family for someone who thought protein shakes were a food group. I need a fresh start, he'd announced one January evening, his suitcase already packed by the door. This isn't working anymore, Beth. We both know it. What I knew was that our family wasn't working meant he'd found someone younger who laughed at his jokes about cryptocurrency and didn't remind him to attend parent-teacher conferences. The truth was, I felt relief when he left. The last 2 years of our marriage had been like walking through a minefield in the dark. Every word I said could trigger an explosion. If dinner was 5 minutes late, I was disorganized and setting a bad example for the kids. If I asked him to pick up milk on his way home, I was nagging and trying to control him. When I worked extra shifts to pay for Rosalie's science camp, I was choosing work over family. When I took a day off to attend Colton's school play, I was financially irresponsible. But in those quiet mornings, with the kids' laughter echoing through our cozy space, I found strength. I'd brew coffee strong enough to fuel my shifts, pack lunches with notes tucked inside, little hearts for Rosalie, dinosaur sketches for Colton, and rush out the door, promising myself we'd make it through another day. The apartment's imperfections became our charms. The creaky floorboard we called our alarm system, the mismatched mugs from garage sales that held our hot chocolate on rainy afternoons. Evenings were my favorite, when exhaustion melted away in their stories. Rosalie would demonstrate her latest experiment, like mixing baking soda and vinegar to simulate a storm, her eyes lighting up with discovery. Colton would narrate epic battles in his Lego world, where dinosaurs ruled cities he'd named after us. Morrison Metropolis, with a hospital tower just for me. We'd curl up on the couch, reading chapters from their favorite books, my voice weaving tales until their eyelids drooped. But beneath it all lurked the strain, bills stacking like unanswered questions. Garrett's sporadic visits where he'd promise the world but deliver excuses. I shielded them from it, smiling through yawns, but sometimes in the mirror after they slept, I'd see the toll. Dark circles, worry lines etching deeper. Still, our bond was unbreakable, forged in small rituals like weekend picnics in the park, where we'd chase butterflies and dream aloud. Rosalie wanted to be a scientist who fixed broken hearts. Colton, a paleontologist uncovering hidden worlds. Their dreams fueled mine, to give them stability, no matter the cost. Then, 2 months after the divorce, everything shifted with the news of Garrett's parents, Walter and Vera Morrison, dying in that tragic car accident. They'd been returning from their 50th anniversary celebration in wine country, when a drunk driver crossed the median. The loss hit hard. Vera had been kind, slipping me envelopes of cash during holidays, whispering encouragement when Garrett's criticisms grew sharp. But what followed twisted grief into something darker. Their will contained a clause Garrett had known about all along. Their substantial estate, including 3 rental properties and a portfolio worth over $2 million, would only pass to him if he had primary custody of any grandchildren. Without it, everything went to charities they'd supported. Suddenly, the man who'd forgotten Colton's 7th birthday and missed a dozen of Rosalie's soccer games was positioning himself as Father of the Year. He started showing up for visitation weekends with extravagant presents and lofty promises, enrolling them in expensive summer camps without consulting me, then citing my failure to provide enrichment opportunities as proof of neglect. "Mummy, why does Daddy keep taking pictures of our apartment?" Colton had asked one Sunday evening after returning from Garrett's house. "What kind of pictures, buddy?" "Everything. Our fridge, our cabinets, my closet, Rosalie's closet. He even took pictures of the bathroom medicine cabinet." He said he was playing a game. Rosalie had chimed in from where she was doing homework. He asked me if I was happy here. When I said yes, he looked angry and said I must not understand what happiness really means. That should have been my wake-up call, but I was drowning in exhaustion, pulling extra shifts to afford Miss Delane, the only lawyer I could manage, her caseload so heavy, our talks were rushed whispers. My family couldn't help much. Parents in Oregon with Dad's hip surgery, brother Nolan in Maine amid his own custody fight. I was alone in this, armed with truth and fading hope that family court valued justice over polished lies. As the custody hearing approached, I requested the day off weeks ahead, losing overtime I needed desperately. My supervisor, Nancy, gave me that pitying look, offering no real aid. I arrived early in my mended navy suit, nerves like live wires, unprepared for how Thornley's words would echo the doubts Garrett had planted years ago. Inside the courtroom, Garrett was already seated with his legal team, exuding confidence in his expensive charcoal gray suit. Hair perfectly styled, every bit the successful businessman he portrayed. Sienna sat behind him, her hand cradling her pregnant belly in a pose that screamed deliberate motherhood. A stark contrast to the chaos she'd helped unleash on our lives. Mr. Thornley rose first, commanding the space like a predator scenting weakness. "Your Honor, we're here today because my client, Mr. Garrett Morrison, has serious concerns about the welfare of his children while in their mother's custody." He opened his leather folder and began the barrage. "Mrs. Morrison, you work as a cardiac nurse, correct?" "Yes, I do." "And how many hours did you work last week?" 62, I admitted, knowing the trap. 62 hours, he echoed, drawing it out like a crime. "And who watched your children during those hours?" "School for days, Mrs. Chen for evenings." "Mrs. Chen, the 73-year-old with a walker. She's capable, raised 4 kids herself." But Thornley pulled a photo, our fridge, nearly bare. "Explain this, taken Monday." "It was before my grocery delivery," I said, but he sneered. "Convenient, no proof." "Bank records next. Overdrafts from Garrett skipped support, bills auto-deducting. How can you provide when you can't manage finances?" "Those happened because he stopped paying," I countered. "My client paid directly in clothes and supplies." Thornley shot back, items I'd never seen. The assault continued with photos of Rosalie's shoes with holes, her lucky ones she refused to replace, and Colton's too small jacket, cherished for Grandma's dinosaur patches. "Is this adequate care?" Thornley demanded, painting me as neglectful while touting Garrett's stable home, Sienna as full-time homemaker, their financial security. Judge Wendell peered over his glasses. "Do you have statements for those deliveries?" Miss Delane stumbled. "We can provide after, Your Honor." "Too late," the judge noted, concern evident. Thornley hammered the final nail. "Evidence of prescription meds impairing parenting." "Insulin," I burst out. "I'm diabetic." "Undisclosed in paperwork," he smoothed. I felt trapped. Every defense twisted, my children slipping away. Garrett smiled that victorious grin, the one from the night he said no judge would side with an overworked nurse over him. The judge frowned deeper. These are serious concerns about welfare. I need the full household picture. My throat was sandpaper, explanations sounded feeble. Then Rosalie's voice pierced again from the gallery. Excuse me, Your Honor. I need to show you something important. Heads turned to my daughter, shoebox clutched like a shield, Colton gripping her sleeve. They shouldn't be here. I'd left them with Mrs. Chen, but somehow they'd arrived. The bailiff moved. Children can't interrupt. But Rosalie persisted. I have evidence about what Dad's doing. He told me to hide receipts. It's wrong. Judge Wendell halted the bailiff. What's your name? Rosalie Morrison, 9, and Colton, 7. Mom's telling the truth. Garrett erupted. Inappropriate. They're coached. Sit down, the judge commanded. Rosalie approached, shoes squeaking. Dad threw away our food when Mom was at work, took pictures to fake neglect. I kept receipts from Mom's shopping. She held up one $247 last Monday after her shift for coupons. That's a lie, Garrett shouted. She put her up to it. I have proof, Rosalie said, voice wavering but firm. Her tablet emerged. Screen recorder captured Garrett's instructions. Colton added, he made me lie to my teacher about being hungry, but Mom always makes breakfast, even French toast sticks we heat up. Miss Delane rallied. Submit as evidence, Your Honor. Judge Wendell nodded, Rosalie handing the box. More receipts for new shoes Rosalie wouldn't wear, Colton's inhaler I prioritized over my meds. The unicorn notebook, dates of Garrett's sabotage, watering milk, removing batteries, rehearsing lies. Thornley objected, children don't grasp complexities, this is alienation. The judge iced him, I know coached from burdened. Rosalie pulled a folded letter to Grandma Vera, detailing fears. Vera's reply urged bravery, truth shining through darkness. Mom works hard, reads to us tired, helps homework unslept, never lets us hungry. Dad lies for Grandma's money, told Sienna he'd send us to boarding school. Silence fell, Garrett breathing heavily. One more item, the recorder. Play button pressed, Garrett's voice, coaching lies as pretend, bribes of microscope and Disney, threats of separation. Rosalie's protest on tape, lying's wrong. He dismissed, adults bend truth. Another clip, him and Sienna, unaware of eavesdropping. Get kids, get inheritance, $2 million, sent to Swiss boarding school. Her laugh, his boasts of sabotaging my job credit. Colton rushed forward, notebook open, childish scrawl of more, soap and washer, threats over dinosaurs, fake crying practice. Garrett exploded, chair toppling. Lies, parental alienation. Control yourself, Wendell warned. To the kids, did Mom tell you this? No, Rosalie firm. She says respect Dad, love both. We came with Mrs. Chen for Truth's Day. The judge eyed Mrs. Chen, nodding. Miss Delane moved. Dismiss petition, full custody to client, supervised visits investigation. Agreed. Wendell said, disgust heavy. Egregious manipulation. Full custody to Mrs. Morrison, supervised for you, pay costs, fees, support. Referred to DA for charges. Gavel down, final. But the path here started with Garrett's departure, that January night suitcase ready. Fresh start, he said, but it was escape to Sienna's world of shakes and quotes. Relief mixed with pain, marriage a battlefield of critiques. Late dinner my fault, shift selfish. Post-divorce I rebuilt routines, but parents' shift crash changed all. Will revealed custody for estate. Greed ignited his plot, visits turned invasive, photos, games. Kids' questions hinted sabotage, but exhaustion blinded me. Now exposed, justice dawned, though scars lingered from years of doubt he'd sown. The weeks leading up to the custody hearing were a blur of exhaustion and dread, my days stitched together by caffeine and sheer will to keep Rosalie and Colton safe. Garrett's sudden shift to devoted dad after his parents' struck death wasn't about love, it was about the $2 million estate tied to custody of our kids. I'd come home from double shifts at Mercy General, bones aching, to find subtle signs of his sabotage. Pantry shelves oddly bare, milk tasting off, batteries missing from the smoke detector. Mommy, why does Daddy keep asking about our food? Colton asked once, his dinosaur figures lined up on the table. He's just curious, buddy, I'd said, too tired to see the pattern. Rosalie mentioned him snapping photos of our fridge, cabinets, even their closets, calling it a game. I should have known. Garrett always played games, twisting reality to win. During our marriage, he'd turned my every effort into failure. Extra shifts were neglect, days off irresponsible. Now he was building a case, using our home as his stage. He'd copied a key before returning it, slipping in while I worked nights, staging scenes of neglect to snap his damning photos. I was drowning, juggling hospital shifts and Miss Delane's rushed meetings. She was overworked, her desk a chaos of folders, our talks clipped to 5 minutes. My parents, tied up with Dad's recovery in Oregon, couldn't help. My brother Nolan was fighting his own custody battle in Maine. Alone, I clung to truth, hoping it'd be enough. Garrett's visits grew calculated, expensive gifts, summer camps I couldn't afford, all framed as my failure to enrich the kids. "Mom, Daddy says we'll live in a big house with a pool," Rosalie said one night, her eyes uncertain. "He's dreaming big, sweet pea," I replied, masking my fear. He was coaching them, planting lies. I found a receipt he'd told Rosalie to hide, $247 for groceries I'd bought, proof he'd trashed to fake an empty fridge. I didn't know she'd kept it, or that Colton was noting his threats in his dinosaur notebook. The hearing loomed, and I requested the day off, losing overtime I needed for bills. My supervisor Nancy gave me that pitying look, no real support. I wore my navy suit, mended twice, Colton's marker stain faint on the sleeve. At the courthouse, nerves frayed, I met Miss Delane, her arms full of papers, phone buzzing. "Thornley's brutal in custody cases," she warned. "Answer short, honest." Inside, Garrett sat smug, Sienna behind him, her pregnant pose a silent taunt. Thornley's opening hit hard, accusations of hunger, tattered clothes, financial ruin. Photos of Rosalie's holy shoes, her lucky science fair pair, and Colton's small jacket, Grandma's patches intact, twisted as neglect. My explanations, groceries delivered, overdrafts from Garrett's skipped support, were dismissed. "No proof," Thornley sneered. My insulin became impairing meds. Judge Wendell's concern grew. I felt my kids slipping away. But Rosalie and Colton, defying my plan to keep them with Mrs. Chen, arrived with their shoebox, ready to unravel Garrett's lies. Their courage stunned me. I hadn't known they'd been gathering evidence, carrying the weight of his manipulation. Rosalie's tablet held recordings, Garrett coaching lies, promising bribes, threatening separation. "Say you're hungry at Mommy's," he urged. Her small voice resisted. "Lying's wrong." Colton's notebook listed sabotage, soap in the washer, fake crying for social workers. They'd followed him to the dumpster, snapped photos of tossed food, chicken, cereal, milk, while I worked, oblivious. Mrs. Chen, our neighbor, had seen their distress, helped them board the bus to court. "Truth needs its day," she'd said. In the gallery they stood, Rosalie's purple dress swaying, Colton's dinosaur tie proud. Their box held receipts, a letter to Grandma Vera confessing fears, her reply urging bravery. Garrett's panic rose with each item. Thornley's objections faltered. Judge Wendell's fury was palpable, his ruling swift, full custody to me, Garrett's visitation supervised, charges pending. The gavel's echo felt like release, but the path to that moment was paved with months of Garrett's calculated deceit, unraveling our home while I fought to hold it together. The courtroom air was thick, the fluorescent hum a constant drone as Thornley's accusations piled up like bricks around me. My hands gripped the table, nails digging into the wood as he waved another photo. Rosalie's shoes, the ones she called her lucky science fair pair, holes worn from love, not neglect. "Your daughter wears these to school," he said, voice dripping with judgment. "Your son's jacket barely fits, patched and frayed." I tried to explain. Rosalie refused new shoes, clinging to her winners. Colton adored Grandma Vera's dinosaur patches. But Thornley twisted my words, convenient excuses, and turned to Judge Wendell. "We have a mother who leaves her children with an elderly caregiver, can't keep food in the home, and fails at basic finances." He held up bank statements, overdraft fees glaring like accusations, from months when Garrett halted child support, leaving my bills to bleed me dry. "Mr. Morrison paid directly in supplies," Thornley lied, referencing clothes I'd never seen. My defense? Groceries delivered Mondays, insulin for my diabetes, not impairing drugs, fell flat without proof. Miss Delane fumbled. "We'll provide statements later." But the judge's frown deepened. "That seems late," he said, voice heavy with doubt. I felt like I was sinking, Garrett's smirk across the room a lifeline he dangled just out of reach. Sienna sat poised, her hand on her belly, a silent ally in his scheme. Thornley's final blow. "My client offers a stable home, a homemaker wife, resources for everything these children need." Judge Wendell leaned forward. "Mrs. Morrison, I need the full picture of your household. My throat burned, every defense sounding weak against Thornley's polished lies. Garrett's grin was the same one from the night he left, claiming no judge would choose an overworked nurse over him. My kids were slipping away, and I couldn't find the words to hold them. Then Rosalie's voice broke through, clear and fierce. "Excuse me, Your Honor. I need to show you something important." The room turned, and there she was, my 9-year-old in her purple dress, clutching her glittered shoebox, Colton beside her in his dinosaur tie. They shouldn't have been here, Mrs. Chen was watching them, but their presence was a lifeline I hadn't expected. "Young lady, sit down," the bailiff said, but Judge Wendell raised a hand. "What's your name?" "Rosalie Morrison, 9, and Colton 7, she answered, pointing to me. "Mom's telling the truth." Garrett leapt up. "Inappropriate, they're coached." "Sit," the judge snapped. Rosalie stepped forward, shoes squeaking, and opened her box. "Dad threw away our food when Mom was at work, took pictures to fake neglect. I kept receipts." She held up one, $247, Monday's groceries, shopped after my shift for coupons. "That's a lie," Garrett shouted. Rosalie faced him. "I have proof, Dad." Her tablet played a recording, Garrett's voice. "Say you're hungry at Mommy's, like playing pretend." Her protest. "Lying's wrong." Bribes followed, microscope Disney. Then threats. "I'll move to California, you'll never see me." Colton added, "He made me lie to my teacher about breakfast, but Mom always makes French toast sticks." The room stilled, Garrett's face ashen, Thornley whispering frantically. Rosalie handed over photos, Garrett at the dumpster tossing unopened food. Her notebook listed sabotage, watered milk, missing batteries, rehearsed lies. "Dad told us to cry for the social worker," Colton said, holding his own notes, childish scrawl detailing threats over his dinosaurs. Rosalie pulled a letter to Grandma Vera, confessing fears. Vera's reply urged truth. "Mom reads to us, helps homework, never lets us go hungry." "Dad wants Grandma's money, told Sienna he'd send us to boarding school." Thornley objected. "Children can't understand complexities." Wendell's voice was ice. "I know deception from truth." Another recording played. Garrett to Sienna, "Get custody, get $2 million, boarding school for the kids." His sabotage unfolded. "My job threatened, credit ruined." Miss Delane stood, "Dismiss his petition. Full custody to my client, supervised visits, investigation." The judge nodded, fury controlled. "Mr. Morrison, this is egregious custodial interference. Full custody to Mrs. Morrison, supervised visits, pay costs, fees, back support. Referred to the DA for charges." The gavel slammed, freedom ringing. Rosalie squeezed my hand. "We did it, Mom." But the weight of their burden lingered. Kids shouldn't have to fight like this. Back home, Garrett's lies had started months ago, invading our space, twisting our reality, while I worked, blind to his game, until my children's courage brought it to light. The courtroom had transformed into a theater of unraveling secrets. The air charged with the weight of revelations that no one, least of all Garrett, had anticipated. Rosalie stood firm at the judge's bench, her small hands delving deeper into the shoebox, pulling out item after item like a magician revealing truths instead of illusions. The receipts fluttered slightly in her grasp, each one a paper shield against the lies that had threatened to tear our family apart. "Here's the one for my new shoes," she said, voice steady but eyes shining with the emotion of it all. 3 pairs, just like Mom said, but I wanted my lucky ones because I won the science fair in them. Colton nodded vigorously beside her, his dinosaur tie bobbing. "And this is for my inhaler," he added, pointing to another receipt. Mom bought it instead of her own medicine because insurance only covered one that month. The judge examined them closely, his pen scratching notes that seemed to echo in the silence. Thornley shifted uncomfortably, his earlier confidence cracking like thin ice under pressure. "Your Honor, these are mere scraps, no chain of custody," he protested, but Wendell dismissed him with a sharp glance. "Continue, young lady." Rosalie reached for her unicorn-stickered notebook next, flipping through pages filled with her neat handwriting. "I wrote down all the times Dad came over when Mom wasn't home," she explained. January 18th, he put water in the milk to make it look spoiled. February 3rd, he took batteries out of the smoke detector and told us to tell the social worker about it. February 22nd, he practiced with us what to say in court, but everything was a lie. Colton's face flushed as he held up his own notebook, pages crammed with childish drawings alongside his lists. Daddy put dish soap in the washing machine and blamed Mom, he said, tears streaking his cheeks. He told me if I didn't say Mom was mean, he'd take my dinosaur collection forever. He made us practice crying. The courtroom murmured, a wave of disbelief rippling through the gallery. Garrett's face had turned a ghostly white, his hands clenched into fists on the table, while Sienna averted her eyes, her maternal pose forgotten. I sat frozen, piecing together the fragments, the odd laundry disasters, the kids' sudden silences after his visits. They'd been detectives in their own home, gathering evidence while I battled exhaustion from shifts, unaware of the full extent of his betrayal. Then came the letter, folded carefully, Rosalie's handwriting on the envelope addressed to Grandma Vera. "This is what I wrote her before she died," Rosalie said softly. "I told her everything Dad was doing because I was scared. She wrote back and said to be brave, that truth always finds a way to shine through darkness." Judge Wendell unfolded it, reading silently, his expression softening with each line. Vera's words, in her elegant script, urged courage and honesty. A final gift from a grandmother who'd suspected her son's flaws long before the will's clause ignited his greed. "The time is right now," Rosalie continued, echoing Vera's sentiment. "My mom works hard to take care of us. She reads to us every night, even when her voice is tired. She helps with homework, even when she hasn't slept. She never misses our important stuff, and she never ever lets us go hungry. Dad is lying about everything because he wants money from Grandma and Grandpa's will. He told his girlfriend Sienna that once he gets custody, he'll send us to boarding school anyway." The words hung heavy, exposing not just manipulation but outright abandonment plans. Garrett's breathing grew ragged, his lawyer's whispers urgent but futile. Finally, Rosalie pulled the small digital recorder from the box's depths, silver and worn, Grandma Vera's birthday gift. "She said to use it if I needed to remember something important," Rosalie explained, pressing play. Garrett's voice boomed clear. "Listen, Princess. When the judge asks, say you're hungry at Mommy's, okay? Even if it's not true. It's like playing pretend." Her recorded response trembled. "But lying is wrong, Daddy. You always said lying is wrong." He pushed on. "This is different. Help Daddy, and I'll buy that $800 microscope. Take us to Disney." Threats wove in, foster homes, separation, moving to California with Sienna. The tape rolled to another clip, Garrett and Sienna in the car, thinking the kid's asleep. "How much longer?" she asked. "Until custody. Then the inheritance. 2 million. Send them to Swiss boarding school." His laughs detailed sabotage, calling my employer for drug tests, maxing our old credit card to ruin my finances. "Bethany can't afford a real lawyer," he boasted. Judge Wendell's face was thunderous. "Do you deny this is your voice?" Garrett stammered, Thornley objecting about edits, but the authenticity was undeniable. Colton surged forward then, thrusting his notebook at the judge. "Look, I wrote it all too. Pages of scrawl. February 10th, Daddy put soap in washer. February 15th, threatened dinosaurs. February 20th, fake crying practice." Garrett exploded, chair crashing. "Lies, she's coached them." "Contempt warning," Wendell barked. To the kids, "Did your mother tell you to say this?" "No," they chorused. Rosalie added, "Mom says respect Dad, love both parents. We came because Mrs. Chen said truth needs its day." Miss Delane, emboldened, moved for dismissal and full custody. "Granted," Wendell declared, voice steel. "Full custody to Mrs. Morrison, supervised visits only, pay all costs, back support. Referred for criminal charges." The gavel fell, justice swift. As we exited, Rosalie and Colton clung to me, their bravery a balm. But flashbacks haunted. Garrett's departure that January, suitcase by the door, fresh start masking his escape to Sienna. Marriage minefields, critiques eroding my confidence. Parents crash, will's clause fueling greed. His invasions, coaching, all exposed now by our children's quiet heroism, turning deception to dust. 6 weeks have passed since that day in court, and our small apartment feels different now. Not bigger or fancier, but lighter somehow, like someone opened all the windows and let years of held breath finally escape. Rosalie's science projects still cover every surface, but now she works on them while humming, not with the quiet intensity of a child carrying secrets. Colton's Lego cities have expanded into the hallway, complete with a new courthouse where truth always wins, according to the sign he made from cardboard. Garrett is facing criminal charges for custodial interference, fraud, and witness tampering. His assets were frozen pending investigation, which means Sienna left him 2 weeks after the hearing. She posted on Instagram about removing toxic people from your journey and choosing self-love over complicated situations. I almost felt sorry for him until I remembered how he'd tried to steal our children for money. The real surprise came from Garrett's extended family. His sister Claire, whom he'd told me wanted nothing to do with us after the divorce, called me crying. "Bethany, I had no idea. He told us you wouldn't let him see the kids." We believed him. She's been visiting every Sunday, teaching Rosalie advanced chemistry experiments and bringing Colton books about paleontology. His cousin Marcus, a lawyer himself, offered to help me recoup the financial damages from Garrett's sabotage. "Family isn't about blood," he said. "It's about truth and loyalty. You and the kids are our family." Walter and Vera's estate executor contacted me last week. Apparently, there was a secondary clause in their will that Garrett hadn't known about. If he was found to be an unfit parent through legal proceedings, the grandchildren's education trusts would activate immediately, managed by an independent trustee until they turned 25. Rosalie's science camp is paid for through graduate school. Colton's future is secure. Vera had apparently suspected her son's true nature and planned accordingly. "Mom, are you mad at us for keeping secrets?" Rosalie asked me one evening as I tucked her into bed, still wearing those sparkly shoes she refuses to throw away. "Never, sweet pea. You were protecting our family the only way you knew how, but you shouldn't have had to be that brave." "I'm glad I was," she said simply. "Mrs. Brennan was right in social studies. Sometimes the truth needs a voice, even if it's a small one." "When did you become so wise?" "When I realized Dad was making you cry but pretending you weren't. You always stood up for us, Mom. It was our turn to stand up for you." Colton joined us, dragging his dinosaur blanket. "Mom, will Dad ever say sorry?" "I don't know, buddy. Sometimes people get so lost in their own lies they forget what truth looks like." "That's sad," he said, crawling into bed next to his sister. "But we won't forget, right?" "Never. I promised them both." My brother Nolan flew in from Maine after hearing about everything. He helped me refinance the apartment into my name only and set up a proper budget. "You should have called me," he said for the 100th time. "You didn't have to face this alone." "I thought being strong meant handling everything myself," I admitted. "That's what Garrett wanted you to think. Isolation is how manipulators win. They make you believe your voice doesn't matter, that no one will believe you, that you're overreacting or being dramatic. They count on your silence." He was right. For years, I'd been drowning in Garrett's version of reality, where every struggle was my fault, every problem was my failure. I'd forgotten that truth doesn't need to be loud or aggressive. Sometimes it comes in a shoebox carried by a 9-year-old girl in sparkly shoes. Miss Delane took on my case pro bono after the hearing and has become a friend. She's using our case in her law school guest lectures about recognizing custodial interference. "Your children saved not just you," she told me, "but potentially dozens of other families facing similar manipulation." Last week, I finally filled my prescription for the medication I'd been skipping to afford Colton's inhaler. Standing in that pharmacy, I realized I'd been holding my breath for 7 years, maybe longer. The marriage, the divorce, the custody battle. I'd survived it all by making myself smaller, quieter, less visible. But my children had shown me that truth doesn't require permission to exist. The shoebox sits on our mantel now, redecorated by both kids with photos of our real family, not the one Garrett tried to destroy, but the one we've built from love, trust, and courage. Colton added a label in his careful handwriting, "The box that saved us." But it wasn't really the box. It was 2 children who understood that love means protecting the people who protect you. It was an elderly neighbor who knew when justice needed a helping hand. It was a grandmother who left her grandchildren more than money. She left them the tools to recognize and fight against manipulation. Truth doesn't always win immediately. Sometimes it has to wait, gathering receipts in a shoebox, building courage in small voices. But when it finally speaks, when someone brave enough finally gives it a platform, truth doesn't just win, it liberates. Our story isn't unique. There are thousands of parents, mostly mothers, fighting against fabricated evidence and calculated lies in family courts every day. They're told they're too poor, too busy, too imperfect to deserve their children. They're isolated, exhausted, and made to doubt their own reality. If you're one of them, remember this. Truth has a voice. Sometimes it's yours. Sometimes it's unexpected allies. Sometimes it's even your children's. Don't give up. Document everything. Trust that lies, no matter how well crafted, eventually crumble under the weight of their own deception. And sometimes, just sometimes, justice comes wrapped in glitter and carried in the small hands of someone who loves you enough to be brave when you can't be. If this story resonated with you, if you face similar battles or know someone who has, please share this video. Your story matters, and you're not alone. Like this video if you believe truth deserves to win. Leave a comment with your own experiences or words of support for others fighting these battles. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more stories of courage, justice, and the unexpected heroes who change everything. As the days stretch longer now, with summer fading into softer light, I find myself pausing more often in the quiet moments, watching Rosalie mix her latest potion at the kitchen table, or Colton assemble towers that reach toward the ceiling. The apartment, once a refuge amid storms, feels like a true home again, its walls echoing with laughter rather than whispers of worry. We've added small touches: a new rug to cover the baking soda stains, framed photos from Claire's visits, even a microscope for Rosalie, bought with the first trust disbursement. Nolan's budget has eased the constant pinch, letting me cut back on shifts, breathe easier during story time. Miss Delane drops by with coffee, sharing updates on Garrett's case, his pleas falling on deaf ears as evidence mounts. Sienna's gone, his family distanced, leaving him to face the solitude he imposed on us. But pity fades. Healing comes in waves, gentle and persistent. The kids sleep soundly, no more hidden fears, their bravery a legacy we'll carry forward. Truth, once a flicker in a shoebox, now illuminates our path, reminding me that strength blooms in vulnerability, in voices big and small. And as I tuck them in tonight, the world outside hushed, I whisper to the shadows, we've won our peace.